Hello and welcome to another edition of Betfred's Punters Guide. Delighted to say Jason Weaver once again has joined us to look ahead to the weekend's action. 8 races live on ITV. We're on the all-weather at Newcastle for the Pitman's Derby. Newmarket as well. HQ sees 3 races live. And also we've got the Irish Derby to talk about. So lots to focus on, Jason. Before we do get stuck into this weekend, though, just a quick review of what we saw last week. 35 great races at Royal Ascot. A little bit worried on the Friday. The races maybe been abandoned, but they got it on. It was kind of a tale of two halves, wasn't it? The decent ground action and the soft ground action where all the favourites came in and the bookies paid out plenty.
Yeah, that, and also the added time of the later races. So you set off, for your Tuesday of Royal Ascot, and we jump straight in and we have top class action. And then towards the end of the card, you were having, these 30 runner handicaps, which used to be the absolute pinnacle for those handicappers and horses that were aimed there, or they were verging on group class. And I don't know. I don't know what your thought was regarding, whenever I've been to the race course and they've added races on, it's always stayed. It hasn't gone away. You haven't said, oh, well, we tried it this time and it's gone away. It's like when Royal Ascot used to be, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then we got the Saturday. And then that stayed. So the races as well, I just worry about whether they will dilute it a little bit.
It's a conversation we're having right now in the jumps at Cheltenham, isn't it? 5th day on the Saturday. And for me, clearly, that is the kind of extra race this year as well as diluted the quality at Cheltenham. But the field stood up at Ascot. That's for true. There was plenty of declarations. But I think you're right. Maybe some of them 80 rated horses coming in certainly dilutes the quality.
Yeah, I think so. Listen, if you've got one and there was a race that your horse could run in and he was rated 80, then you would go there, wouldn't you? Why would you not go to the Royal Meeting? It is the best in the world. And, I've been lucky enough to go across to Australia and see how they deal with the Melbourne Cup and all of those carnivals. But, the likes of the Wokingham used to think, I could sneak in the bottom off a low weight. You can't. You need to be a very good horse to get in there to start with. So some of the races just felt a little bit different.
And of course, the knock-on effect for field sizes, which are certainly below average as well, because that'll knock on to the other meetings.
Absolutely. There are only so many to go around. It was sad that we had the weather change. Thankfully, they got racing on. It was just a bit of a worry one moment. I was working with Rishi and he said, look, we've been in this situation on many occasions and when the tide is turning a little bit, and now was that time for the meeting to come under threat. But thankfully they got it on. They splashed through it a little bit. Listen, I've been over to Germany, bud, and they've been going through puddles like that. So they never stopped the racing for anything.
Yeah, I think it was good to firm in Ireland as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, let's look into this weekend then. Thankfully, the fields have held up. Some good fields to look forward to. We start at Newcastle in the 145. It's a 6 furlong handicap. And I think the one horse that I thought when I was talking to you to catch her was Mondamedge, stepping up to 6 furlongs. He's been luckless in races over 5. Put the extra furlong. It's a stiff 6 as well. Bring out a little bit of improvement.
Look, when you've got the likes of Edge to Lab, who's off the back of a career best, Lexington Dash looked really good at Doncaster and then folded a little bit tamely behind that one. 2 young lads are worthy of a mention. Oisin McSweeney, John Shinnock, both riding for Kevin Ryan. So they've ridden, I think it's 6 and 3 winners apiece. And I think that one is with Kevin, the other one's with Richard Fahey, but just pitching them in against each other for their probably the biggest ride of their career here is a good way to get them going. But you're right. I mean, Danzan, I could give him a squeak. His second to Mr. Lupton was absolutely fantastic. But is he becoming a bit of a cliff horse? Are we hanging on to the tail again and going over the edge? Mondamedge, I thought he was a little bit unlucky at Epsom. He sort of gave it away. You can never really get away with that, Matt. But I think at Newcastle, if he misses it half a beat, you've got a bit of time to get back into it. And I think he's still nowhere near his ceiling at the moment on a mark of, 87.
Yeah, we're sticking with him then. Mondemed sticking with him, trying to get the head in front.
Hopefully, buddy. Look, we know how talented he is. He cost an absolute fortune originally, and the team picked him up for next to nothing out of the Roger Varian stable. So, look, I just think he's not quite at his ceiling at the moment. Staxton, last year's winner. It's a good race. It is a good race, but I think he has an edge in here because of where he sits from a ratings perspective.
Yeah, there's plenty of exposed handicappers in that, but we've got the other end of the spectrum at Newmarket with the 220, the listed Empress Filly Stakes. A few of these having a quick turnaround, aren't they, from the Royal Ascot? Then we've got 4 horses who all won on debut, and probably the most impressive was Najat, who went all the way across the track at first and still won pulling a car.
Yeah, Najat was impressive. I thought Rock Melody was pretty impressive when she managed to win up at Redcar. Shoe, we know, landed that massive punt up at Thirsk and then has been found out a little bit in the Queen Mary behind Quick Susie. It's a really good race. If we look strictly on the figures and what they've achieved so far, surely Cachet has to be high on many people's lists. Now, I'm always happy when a jockey who's had a brilliant run and then seems to have a terrible time, a little bit like Nicola Curry at the moment, she gets kept on this horse. And she won really well at the Rowley Mile. We're switching across to the July course, but that will hold no fears for her whatsoever. And I didn't think she ran too bad behind Sandrine. I thought that was an okay run in the Albany. Of course, the weather conditions. She's coming back under quick ground. George Bowie, the reason he's had such a good time with his 2-year-olds is he works them and canters them on the grass all the time. All these trainers saying, we haven't been on the grass yet. We haven't done this. We haven't done that. How can you expect to win if you haven't been on the grass? The fact that she backs up 8 days later holds no fears whatsoever.
Just touch on that as well. You mentioned that because it's George Bowie's 2-year-old strike rate this year. I mean, he's been around about 40-45%. A couple of years ago, it was Archie Watson. Mark Johnson had an incredible run as well with his juveniles. And yet this year it's George Bowie. Is that the reason?
Yeah, absolutely. Just out the back here, they have what they call the Pete Moss Gallop. It's over past the Rowley Mile. It's quite firm, but it has a really good cover on the grass. And so his horses are cantering on their day in and day out when everybody else's are going on the synthetic up the hill, poly track or whatever. And so his horses are going to the races and bouncing out of it so much better. It's like me asking you to run up on the grass and then ask you to run on the road the next day. You're going to be stiff and sore because of one or the other. But George's horses have been brilliant. I think he's taken advantage of it.
Yeah, he certainly has. Yeah, they've been flying. So Cachet then in that 220 at Newmarket, back up north to Newcastle Nil Weather, an absolute cracker of the Chip Chase Stakes. Jason, some great old servants in here. Brando, what a legend he's been to Connections. Oh, This Is Us is having a great season as well. Of course, one of Epsom Kazam, who was a bit of a revelation on the all weather. He's a winner on finals day. And then Diligent Harry, who gets plenty of weight, £7 weight for age allowance, which could be key here. And he looks very progressive. And the right man, Clive Cox, in charge.
Yeah, there are lots of angles in. I mean, Brando's only £2 off top rating in the lineup, and he's the type who will pop up when you least expect it. Diligent Harry down the bottom, he's still got a bit of learning to do. He seems to do it all. He's a bit rushed through the middle part of the race, if you like, and he's going to need to have to settle better. I thought it was a bit derogatory, really. They said, he won a little race at Lingfield. He won a hot 3-year-old sprint at Lingfield. Trust me, that was a really, really decent race. So, if they were all that good, we'd be absolutely laughing. So he's an interesting runner. But Kuzan, now Jim Crowley has had to choose between 3 runners. They're rated 109, 112, 116. He switches back onto the all-weather, which is a major, major positive. He looked really good. He absolutely battered Mums Tipple, a rejuvenated Mums Tipple, by 5 lengths when winning around Lingfield. I don't think we've got anywhere near the bottom of him, especially now that he comes back onto the all-weather. So Jim had the choice. I bet it was really easy. Sometimes you're scratching your head and thinking, asking your agent and everything else. I bet he went, no, I'll ride Kazam.
Yeah, maybe tipping itself then, Jim. Choosing that one out of the three Shadwell runners in the chip chase, back down to HQ at 240. Then Jason listed the contest, the Fred Archer Stakes, over a mile and a half. And Logician, the former St. Ledger winner, back on a bit of a retrieval mission. Okay efforts so far this season, but he's certainly not been up to his best. And got over the old boy chance, Desert Encounter. David Simcock has won 3 of the last 7 renewals in this one. And he settled Desert Encounter here with Callum Shepherd on board. I mean, we know what to expect from him. He's going to track the pace and try and pounce late.
Yeah, he'll be played late. Logician has not quite bounced out of. It was a remarkable 2019 that he went unbeaten, wasn't it? Rounding off with the St. Ledger. He looked an absolute world beater. He then had a really torrid time when he was quite sick throughout the winter. And he had some sort of respiratory problem. And he's done well to even come back and start racing again. So they obviously want to get a decent couple of wins into him before he can disappear off the stud. Pablo Escobar, he took an absolute tonking, didn't he, off Sarong Priestley up at Newmarket. And so they decided to give him the full treatment with all the headgear and the visor on. And Max Vega was a very good horse. Let's make no mistake, Rafe Beckett pitched him into the Derby. He was 33 to 1 shot when he finished down the field behind Serpentine. So he's not a bad stick either. He'd be the one I'd be most feared of coming back in here. But surely the old boy, Desert Encounter, Callum Shepherd, who likes to sort of mould himself on Jamie Spencer, he'd be able to take his time out the back of the pack. He's going to let these go on. Max Vega's going to go forward, I think. Logician will start kicking anyway because it's over a mile and a half. He's going to want to start stretching from the 3-pole. I think Desert Encounter, it sets up perfectly for the old boy.
Yeah, I think I looked to myself. Outbox will go forward as well. And he wasn't disgraced, was he, behind Love in the Prince of Wales? And, that's really good form coming in here.
That was a brilliant run. It was a brilliant run. If you watch it back, actually, you momentarily thought your eye was drawn to him as he was starting to make that challenge and obviously class up at the highest level in the end, as told, with her going away in the closing stages. But I think it was a great run. And what a wonderful advert, 9 years old, still giving his all. And you could just drop him in small field. You mentioned about the trainer's good record in the race.
There we are, the Desert Encounter to roll back the years in the Fred Archer, back up to Newcastle again on the all-weather, and a consolation race for their feature, the plate. This is the Northumberland Vars, 20 runners over the 2 mile. Jason, each stage has been a revelation since joining Ian Williams. Maiden over in Dubai, 3 from 3 on the turf there. He does look well in under a penalty. And also right at the bottom, caught my eye, Bella Trixer for Venetia Williams. Now, she saddled the winner of the Chester Cup consolation race, Greenbrook, and this one, just £5 higher than winning over course and distance. I thought she could be an each-way play because she's improved over hurdles. But look, 20 runners going to post in the consolation race. There's plenty to look at.
Oh, you could go round and round, couldn't you? East Asia, we don't really know where the ceiling is with him. He was racing over at Al Ain, and it's got him down as running on the all-weather. But I don't think it's anything like ours. It's much more of a dirt surface. So this is going to be a bit of an unknown, but I would imagine the way he's travelled into his races, it'll definitely suit. Old favourites, Cosmelli, Cleonte, didn't run that well, actually, at Ascot. That was in the Queen Alexandra, wasn't it? You got Rochester House, actually rated £4 lower on the all-weather and has run really, really well in these type of races from a mark of 88 previously. And I go down, like you say, Bellatrixer could be absolutely anything, right sort of team. Keep getting back to Z-Band, who looked really good for Roger Varian and Andrea Azzini. Gets the visor on. They obviously felt that he wasn't quite putting his best foot forward. He's drawn, more importantly for me, right down on the fence. Andrea was brilliant on Juan Alcano at the Royal Meeting. He can just drop him down on the fence. You save so much ground all the way around there. And I think that, again, I don't think he's at his absolute ceiling, mark of 88. He steps up in distance, big pedigree. There's a lot to like about him.
Yeah, Z-Band then for Jason in the Vars. Back to HQ then, Newmarket for the Criterion Stakes of Group 3. And bona fide 7 furlong contests. There's not many of them. There's like this, the Hungerford Stakes, the Lennox Stakes, all Group 2s and Group 3. So these are for the absolute bona fide 7 furlong horses. We've got a few of them in here, notably Kinross and Glorious Journey.
Yeah, Kinross had a real tough start to his career, didn't he? You know, he ran in all the top races after impressing early. I think he went off favourite for the Vertum that was held up at Newcastle on that occasion because it was cancelled at Doncaster. You know, he's had a pretty tough start to life. And last time, after being gelded, Dettori on board, the new owner, he goes and manages to get his head in front. So he's going to be popular. He's going to be popular. But that race at Haydock absolutely fell into his lap. You got the likes of the Learjet, who was a Norfolk winner. Royal Crusade actually had excellent form over in Meydan behind Extravagant Kid. Mutakael in 2020 won the Bunbury Cup and the Britannia. Good. It's a good race. Plenty of depth in here. But I really feel Duke of Hazzard has had no luck the last twice. He ran 2 starts ago at Epsom. Dettori was on board. I spoke to Oliver Cole afterwards, and he said, look, he hasn't had a race at all, running back quickly, goes to York this trip, ran a shocker, no pace, no gallop whatsoever, ends up pulling himself to the front. And he's a known hold-up performer. Who do they book for him? Man of the moment, Shane Kelly, after that balls of steel ride on Rohan, of course, at the Royal Meeting. He's perfect. He's absolutely tailor-made as a rider for this horse, and he'll be produced fast and late.
There we are, Duke of Hazzard in the Criterion. A solid pick from Jason. Back to Newcastle for the feature. Then the Northumberland play, of course, the Pitman's Derby. And great to see Trushan here, top of the race. Alan King throwing the dart. You know, a Group 1, well, Group 2 winner, won the Long Distance Cup last year. Throwing the darts, missed the Ascot Gold Cup because of the ground. And a big ride for Rhys Clutterbuck.
Massive ride for Rhys. Everybody is talking about the weight he's going to have to carry. Can he carry the weight? The reason you're at the top of the handicap is because you're the best horse in the lineup. Added to that, nobody has even talked about it. The lad who rides him out at home is a guy called Dan, who's Alan King's assistant. He's 6 foot. I'm guessing he's 10 stone with nothing on. So when he's got his boots, his jacket, his helmet, his back pad, the riding out saddle that you have at home, he's got to be closer to 11 stone. So every day, Trushan is cantering around with 11 stone on his back. No problem whatsoever. So we're making a huge thing of him now racing with what will be 9 stone 13. It's not alien to him at all. He's not got a bad draw in 12. It is a big ride for Rhys, and he will need to get him to settle a little bit in the early stages because he can latch on, can't he? You've seen him in his races. He sort of takes a bit of a toe. Provided there's a good pace on, I think it'll be a great opportunity for him to collect a huge pot.
Yeah, we don't get to see these class horses in handicaps. I mean, we do in America, certainly in Australia for the Melbourne Cup. We don't have these big handicaps, apart from the Evo, which they're trying to make into it. So it's great to see these proper Group 1 horses carrying big weights again.
Absolutely. It's not that long ago, is it, that you saw it in jumps racing where you would get horses carrying 12-7, like the real classy runners, if you like, were just going in and mopping up a handicap. The one I'm trying to remember was an old horse called Page Boy for the late, great Patrick Haslam. And he racked up a few wins and he got an extra £7 penalty. And I won on him carrying 10 stone 7 at Hamilton. I'd like to say that I had a big lead cloth, but I probably didn't at the time anyway. So, but they can carry it and they do it day in and day out. He's a 5-year-old. He's a big, powerful, robust horse. There is no reason that he cannot carry 9.13 around here.
Yeah, Trushan then to win the Vars, then about take quality certainly rising to the top there. And of course, talking of quality, we can't go without talking about the Irish Derby as well over at the Curragh. Aidan O'Brien 14 times has won this. He saddles 5 this year, Jason. Although he's 3 from 3 in the Colts in the Phillies Classics across Britain and Ireland, but he's yet to win a Colts Classic this year. Well, we get to find out now how good High Definition is. He's taken on the 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th from Epsom.
Yeah, that the fact that he stayed at home, I think, is the right thing. If you saw him in the Dante, I know that Ryan was not happy with Holly Doyle that she didn't go that quick on the pacemaker on that occasion. He's massive, absolutely enormous. He could be 3rd and win a neck. That's how long he is, right? And so it's just where he is from a physical point of view now. The Beresford win looked really good last year. He ran well in the circumstances in the Dante. And it was a shame we didn't get to see him over here, but it's the right spot for him. However, you are going to need to, he's going to need to have taken a significant jump forward, isn't he? What is he rated? 115 at the moment. I think any of these are open to as much improvement as him. Definitely Mojo Star. Wordsworth was a little disappointing when second in the Queen's Vase, so he's going to be ridden really aggressively here. So the tactics are going to play into high definition. He'll be held up at the back of the pack. But Mojo Star, I've watched that back again this morning, his run at Epsom. Just as he was making his challenge in between runners, it was a really, really tight little passage for him to go to. And the winner had absolutely flown down the paint and got the run on. So I think it could be upgraded. Hannon, we always sort of associate him with the sprinters and the 2-year-olds and all that. Wouldn't it be great for him to have a real proper stayer?
And just in a word as well, great for Rosa Ryan to be back, and what a ride to come back for.
Yeah, I mean, he had the fall. He went to hospital. He wasn't going to get back in. He was going to get back for Royal Ascot. Then he had appendicitis. So he had that out. He had his appendix out. And then I saw him at the Royal meeting and he said, look, hopefully back next week, blah, blah, blah. It couldn't have gone any better, could it? Ammo Racing have made a big splash as far as the sales are concerned and having a few decent horses. It would be a real fairy tale story for Ross O'Ryan. I'm embarrassed to say, when he rode his first winner at Dundalk, I was working that night with Luke Harvey and I said, hasn't she given that a brilliant ride? Because I used to work for a farmer in Wales whose missus was called Rosa, and I got a little bit confused.
I don't think you're the only one though, but there's no doubting about it. He's certainly at Mangone Place, a very talented jockey. Right, that's the look at the feature action then. I mean, we've got other group races at the Curragh, we've got listed races at Windsor as well, competitive fair at Chester. It's a real busy Saturday afternoon. But what will be the idea of a strongest battle, your strongest selection this weekend?
I think that I've got to stick with the official figures. And I know that a lot of the fillies are improving at different times. The fact George Bowie backs up Cachet just 8 days after her run at the Royal meeting in the Albany, don't think the ground was to her liking at all. She ran really well to be only beaten 3 lengths by Sandrine. Yeah, I think she'll, not saying she'll come home alone, but in listed company, I think she's much better than these.
Yeah, Cachet then to extend George Bowes' incredible strike with the juveniles this season. Thanks to Jason for joining us. You can watch him on ITV this weekend, covering those 8 races. Whatever you're back in there, the very best of luck. And as always, please gamble responsibly.